All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's Ash Wednesday, which of course means that I'm joined by Ash. It's A-S-H-E Wednesday, not A-S-H Wednesday.
We're not being blasphemous.
It is not blasphemy. It is Ash-E Wednesday. Ashy Wednesday.
Well, now Cam should be here.
You went from blasphemous to racist.
I know. That's what kind of day it's going to be. Hi, Brian.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, guys. It's good to see you, Ash. As always, it's been a whopping 12 hours, not even, or more. No, more. It has been a week. It has. We got a lot to talk about today. We've got, I think the most interesting thing that we're probably going to get into today, maybe not, is the new developments on Charlie Kirk. And normally I wouldn't talk about Charlie Kirk. Oh, Joe Kent says he wants to testify now.
Nice. No, I'm not up on that because I've been trying to get caught up on the SCOTUS stuff because I figured you were going to ask me about that. So
I would figure we'll save that for why we vote.
Yeah,
we talked briefly about it. I mean, we can get your opinion on here, of course.
All shows are why we vote now. Asawavna.
No, so the Charlie Kirk thing's interesting now. And normally, like, we haven't touched it since, it got into all the podcasting battles and all that. But now we've got an official, a government official with firsthand knowledge of a lot of things that says he's willing to testify. And it's got the TP USA crowd melting down. And it's very interesting. So we'll get into that. We've got all sorts of things to talk about. But first, we have to get into our sponsors. And first up, guys, let's talk about our friends over at My Shroom Vibe.
Hey there, Earthlings. I'm here on the streets of New York to tell you about something that's literally out of this world. Traveling between dimensions really takes it out of you. But I've found the perfect solution. My Shroom Vibe can now be your Shroom Vibe. Elevate your frequency. Get microdose capsules, gummies, and chocolate bars at myshroomvibe.com. Use code BADLANDS for 10% off your order. Trust me, galaxy hopping demands balance, and ours comes from Mother Nature. Organic, not synthetic. It's the real deal. Sai Lee, if you know what I mean. Check it out. Your frequency will thank you. Visit myshroomvibe.com. Organic goodness, not synthetic. Use code BADLANDS.
All right, myshroomvibe.com, promo code BADLANDS. Check it out. I've got my Focus Vibe right here. I love their stuff. And take two of those every morning. Helps keep my brain clear. Mushrooms have a tremendous effect on your mind and your brain and the neurons and all that stuff. So,
are you suggesting that we've been lied to about this by the pharmaceutical companies?
No. Did you see the short?
They just love us and care about us, right, Brian? They just want the best for us. So they would never lie to us about something so important like naturally occurring substances that can, have great benefits on the human body. They would never lie to us.
The short I made from last night when we were talking about the GLP-1s? I made a short for Rumble, clipped it up a little bit. It's a pretty good segment. Yeah, from Book Club last night.
Oh, no. I'm so out of the loop.
You'll have to check it out, but it's okay. It's okay. It was on my channel. That's why you probably didn't see it. I don't have...
No, it's because there's been news breaking here, and I broke the news originally, and then it kind of blew up, and so it's been consuming all of my focus and energy, and I need Shroom Vibe so I can have more expanded focus.
Well, we do have a robust
my life.
We do have a robust election segment today because Aswavana.
All shows are why we vote now.
Absolutely. Guys, let's talk about Goldco here. It's officially a new era for gold and silver. Gold has broken $5,000 an ounce, and silver has surged past $100. In 2025 alone, gold jumped 64%, while silver skyrocketed 150%. And with political and economic uncertainty ahead, 2026 could bring even bigger moves. After such a historic run, a pullback is normal. Metals move fast, and so some consolidation is expected, but top analysts are calling for even higher prices. We've seen the first bank failures of 2026 with regulators shutting down Metropolitan Capital Bank and Trust in Chicago. Could more follow? It's no surprise Americans are pulling money from banks and turning to the proven protection of gold and silver. Big news, Goldco is celebrating America's 250th anniversary with a limited time bonus. Get up to 10% free gold bonus, free gold or silver, plus free storage and a free home safe with a qualifying cash purchase. This offer won't last, so act now. Are we seeing the early signs of another 2008 style crises? Don't wait for the next shoe to drop. Protect your wealth with precious metals, because in uncertain times, gold and silver shine brightest. Visit badlandsgold.com today to get your free 2026 gold and silver kit and bonus buy. Again, that's badlandsgold.com. All right. I think we're ready to get into the news for the day. Oh, you know what? We should plug just real quick the battle of the sexes. Do we want to plug that?
Yeah.
So for those of you out there,
we've been talking about this for like a year.
We have, and we've decided to pull the trigger on this and do it the Monday before GART begins, which is going to be epic, and we'll probably have a friendly wager and some,
some sort of humiliation ritual.
Yeah, and
so that's April 6th, everyone.
April 6th. We're going to have Y Chromes and Alphas Make Sandwiches in a combined Battle of the Sexes show. We're still working out the details, but it will be, I got to have my people talk with her people, and we got to come to formidable terms and everything else, agreeable terms. And it's going to happen.
So Christy is both of our people. So she's going to be the go-between.
maybe me and Christy should negotiate it, since, husband and wife will, there's like, I don't. We're too competitive. We're too competitive against each other, though. So
you can use coercion tactics against your wife. So
she can use the coercion tactics. Women.
I know this goes both ways, and so I think both sides of the battle of the sexes would agree that you two cannot negotiate this in a vacuum.
It'd be beneficial for you. Remember, women and children get the life rafts. So
obviously. I don't even know why we're arguing about that.
I'm trying to trigger Ash at 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, her time. All right, guys.
Fighting the demons is a man's job.
Smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. And let's go ahead and jump into the news. And first up, we're going to go straight into elections. And speaking of being able to come to agreeable terms, NBC News, California governor debate is canceled after criticism of criteria that excluded candidates of color.
What was the criteria?
Polling and fundraising.
Was the polling inequitable?
So this is kind of a like, I can understand the argument here, believe it or not. And they're highlighting the color thing, and that's not that, like, take the color thing out of your mind, right? Because we're talking about a pool of candidates. And ultimately, all of the candidates that were invited to participate in the debate were the highest polling candidates. There's like 10 candidates in California running for governor, 2 Republicans and I think 8 Democrats. And so maybe even more, I don't know. But the top, however many they allotted spots for were the top polling ones. But there's one guy who got in not on polling, but on fundraising. And so let's just cover this real quick. The criteria to participate in the debate, co-sponsored by the University of Southern California, emerged as a source of controversy. USC faced condemnation for using polling and fundraising criteria for participation in the debate that resulted in the exclusion of all of the non-white gubernatorial candidates. USC and KABC had invited the 5 candidates who have largely been atop public polls in the race, as well as Mahan, to participate. Mahan trails other candidates in most of the surveys, but as the mayor of Silicon Valley's hub city, he has quickly amassed a formidable financial war chest after jumping into the race late in January. All 6 of those candidates that were selected happen to be white. So In other words, this guy Mahan, he's not polling very well. He just entered the race, but he has a ton of money because he's from Silicon Valley. I get yelled at all the time when I say that. Silicon Valley. Nevada. He's from Silicon Valley, and got a whole bunch of people to back him, and he's not polling. Like, he's not even registering when you look at the polls. Like, they don't even show the percentage. I think, I was looking at real clear polling, and they had the historic polls, and there's only one where he showed 4% a vote, approval, or whatever you want to call it. All the rest of them, it's just a hyphen through his data, because there is no data on him. Granted, he just entered in January. Here, in fact, let me show it real quick, just so you guys understand what I'm talking about. So if you look at the polling right here, Mahan is the last one here, and you see all of these other polls have him showing no, he's not garnering any votes, except the Berkeley IGS poll shows him at 4%. So Hilton, Swalwell, Bianco, Porter, Steyer, Becerra, and Villaraigosa.
He's white?
But who?
Villaraigosa?
No. He's not one of them that's made it.
Oh, okay.
He's not one of them that made it. I'll read you the list of the ones that made it. Here we go. The lengthy list of Democrats includes Swalwell, Porter. Those aren't the ones who were invited, because Becerra's up there as well. But anyways, so they canceled the debate. Now, here's the thing. It's based on polling data. I don't particularly agree with the fundraiser. I'm 100% on with that aspect of it. I don't think the amount of money that people have given you should be determinative of to whether or not you are allowed to participate in a debate. I think everybody should be allowed to participate in a debate. Period. Anybody that's eligible and put their name on the ballot and, has any sort of...
Is it a combined debate or a Democrat debate?
Well, this is the primary, and they have jungle primaries in California.
Okay.
So it's everybody going up there at once. So you're going to have two Republicans getting,
if you have no conditions on who can debate, that could turn into an absolute shit show.
Well, so I mean, obviously you have to.
Financial war chest is a long-standing metric that is used.
But it's just so broken now with PACs and super PACs, and somebody from Silicon Valley able to just get
having the same rights as people. Yeah,
exactly. Now we're going to Citizens United, right? And think that needs to be overturned.
Agreed.
But here's the thing that nobody's talking about, right? Everybody's saying, well, USC is racist for not putting these people up there. Well, maybe California is just racist because none of the people of color are winning in the polling. Why haven't we thought about that?
Polls are fake. So
polls are totally fake.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
No, I mean, this is you're always going to get the I'm a victim, answer. It's unfortunate. What are you going to do about it, though? You have to have standards, and you can't have standards. You can't have equitable standards, in my opinion. You can't have, you have to have a 10% polling target if you're white, but it's down to 4 if you're a person of color, because we want more people of color on the ballot. That's the same. It's the same level of discrimination going the other way. And that's what, in my opinion, we're trying to move away from, is those kinds of standards.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that. So let's we'll move on. We're going to talk more about some election stuff here in just a second, but I skipped over this story, and I don't want to skip over this story because I love to see the elites being chopped down to the same level as the plebs. From the Hill, Delta suspends special congressional services amid shutdown. Guess what, motherfuckers? You want to keep DHS shut down? You want to keep TSA out of the loop? You want to cause 5-hour lines at Hartsfield and is it Hartsfield or Atlanta Airport and all these other airports? Guess what? Get in line with the rest of us. Delta is now taking away their special privileges. Delta Airlines suspending the dedicated flight assistance service for members of Congress as airport security lines grow longer amid the partial shutdown. Quote, due to the impact on resources from the longstanding government shutdown, Delta will temporarily suspend specialty services to members of Congress flying on Delta. Next to safety, Delta's number one priority is taking care of our people and customers, which has become increasingly difficult in the current environment. Among the services being suspended are airport escorts and so-called red coat services. The Capitol desk, a reservations line, will remain open.
You love to see it.
You do.
You make them feel the pain. And listen, I'm on team keep the government shut down always, because I think that they do way more harm than good. And I don't think any of these people should be making laws, because I think that they're illegitimate. But the fact that they get special, privileges throughout our society because of their position in Congress, and then they, don't ever feel the pain of their decisions that they make in Congress. That's why a big part of why we're in the problem that in the situation that we're in is that these people don't ever have to deal with the consequences of their actions. They don't ever have to, experience the impacts of their legislation. And so, let them do their little political stunts, and again, get rid of TSA. I think the whole thing was an op, right? But make them feel it. Next up, let's eliminate qualified immunity and make them use the same healthcare systems as the rest of us.
Let's also eliminate or significantly reel in the speech and debate clause.
Yeah.
I was looking at this a couple of weeks ago, reading through, the speech and debate clause in the Constitution and the precedents for it. And they have grossly expanded that to include just about every damn thing. And it's actually kind of disgusting. Let's also make Congress susceptible to FOIA.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should be subject to FOIA.
How is that not a thing?
Neither's the judiciary.
Why? Oh, right. Because they vote their own standards into place and they have literally zero oversight.
Because of the speech and debate clause. You can't know what we're talking about behind the scenes, because then you know how the bread is made, or what is it? How the sausage is made. Yeah. And you don't want to know how the sausage is. Why did I say bread?
Yeah. Bread is a much more palatable.
You take another one of these Shroom vibes right here. All right, so let's play this clip here of this has to be an old clip. I just caught this. Hold on. Is this an old clip, or are we still doing MSNBC?
I don't know. What are they talking about?
I don't know. Well, immigrants. Here, check this.
Criminal invaders.
Yeah. This is the reason that DHS is shut down, because of ICE, and it's their favorite demographic.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So right. You are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
Let me just play that one more time.
For the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
Why do we care about them the most?
That is a very good question, Ash. Stop thinking critically about why a senator would go on obviously a leftist rag and say something like that.
I care most about my constituents now. I care most about the U.S. military fighting for our freedom now. I care most about legal immigrants, the beauty and the beacon of the Statue of Liberty. Drown that bitch in the harbor. No, I care most about the criminal invaders who came here, had a window in which they could pursue lawful residency, decided to hide inside the nation instead, and then get caught and are facing deportation. That's who we care the most about.
Did you, speaking of the Statue of Liberty, did you see Farce News's newest Iran propaganda video?
Give us your teeming refuse. Give us your garbage humans, world. We want all of your garbage humans. The French psyoped us, and we all are still pretending like that's a good thing. Drown the bitch in the harbor. So no, somebody, Smay60 just put this in the chat. I hadn't seen it yet, but I saved the link so I could see it.
This video?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Check this out. So calling a slight audible. We're not going to get into the Iran war. I don't know if we get into that at all right now, but check this video out that Farce News put out.
Holy shit. Yeah. See, like,
yeah,
and
just
I
a
mean,
little bit.
Yeah, because I'm no fan of the Statue of Liberty, but
well, I'm kind of torn.
Now I feel like I have to hate the Iranians.
When the Statue of Liberty is dressed out as Baphomet, I mean, I'm not
Moloch, I believe.
Moloch. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Baphomet's a goat. Moloch is a bull, I think.
Was it?
Correct me in the chat.
I thought it was a goat. I didn't. No, yeah, I guess that is a bull.
Yeah, that's the one they've been doing. We've been seeing a lot of these videos where they've got the effigy of Moloch. Generally has a Star of David / Seal of Solomon on it, and they're burning it.
It's kind of more like a
Moloch was the Old Testament idol that is a Chaldean god where they sacrificed children.
I don't know, but that's going to have a lot of people. Like I'm kind of torn on it. I mean, obviously, the idea of them shooting a missile at U.S. Mainland is bonkers and would be met.
Some people are saying it's ball. Maybe.
Ball? Yeah, that's actually
it's all Lucifer. I mean,
it's all demonic. It's all demonic. Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. Little audible right there. Because you brought up the Statue of Liberty. All right, let's.
The Statue of Liberty is Ishtar. So I mean, we've got this demonic shit all over our society. If we're ripping down statues, we find some common ground to rip down statues. We should rip down the ones that are, effigies of false gods.
All right. Somebody says Star of Renfam, not David Moloch.
Yeah.
Now you guys are going to make me start wondering.
Have I got a corner of the internet for you, Brian?
I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there.
I'll send you some YouTube playlists.
I don't want to. Was Iran implying that Khamenei is alive? Because they show Soleimani alleged, they show.
I think they were showing everyone we've killed.
Well, no. Well, hold on. Because they show everyone we killed, but here, let me show it again. They're all looking up as if the missile's about to hit them. Here's Soleimani. But then when it gets to Khamenei, he is watching the missile leave. He's watching the Iranian missile leave.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean,
it's definitely in their interest to make us believe that guy's still alive. It's in our interest to make the world believe that he's dead. And as Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based on deception.
And that's fascinating because, we talked about this yesterday with Ghost, and Ghost is going to be joining me on my show at 2 p.m. today as well. So if you want to check that out, we're going to go through the whole history of this conflict, going all the way back and our own involvement in it. But, if you, I lost my train of thought on that. President Trump is out there saying Iran's coming to the table. We're gonna have peace. Witkoff and Kushner negotiating again. Now Iran's saying we don't want to negotiate with Witkoff and Kushner, but you're seeing more of the diplomatic, peaceful side coming from President Trump as usual. And meanwhile, Iran on the other side is lobbing AI generated ICBMs at the statue of Baal. And what a time, man. What a time. All right, let's get back into Asawavana, whatever it is. NBC News, Democrats flip Republican-held Florida State House district that includes Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Their narrative seating right here with these special elections. They've been doing this the entire time since President Trump was reelected and we started getting the special elections. Democrats have performed well in special elections during Trump's second term, with the party pointing to those results as a sign of strength ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Florida's 87th district is the 10th GOP-held state legislative seat that Democrats have flipped around the country since Trump took office. Republicans have not yet flipped a single Democratic state legislative seat during that same period.
But before you move on, this result was 51-49.
I don't know what the exact result.
Gregory had 51% of the vote to 49 for Maples, with all precincts reporting.
There you go.
Yeah, that's not the nation we live in.
It says Trump carried this Florida legislative district by around 11 percentage points in 2024. Quote, Democrats can run and win anywhere, including Donald Trump's backyard, said Florida Democrat Party Chair Nikki Fried in a joint statement. Democrat Brian Nathan is leading Republican Josie Tomkow by less than half a percentage point, with nearly all of the votes counted in a Tampa area state Senate district previously held by the GOP. So, I mean, elections are fake. So it is what it is. But this is what they're going to lay as the foundation when there's a massive blue wave in the 2026 midterms, despite all the polling that we've covered. And again, I understand polling's fake, but this is the narrative that, CNN and MS Now and all these other left-wing outlets are putting out there. And that is that, hey, guys, Democrats, wake up. We're not popular. We're not popular. We're polling lower than Republicans. We're Harry Enton out there all the time. MAGA's got 100% support for Trump and all that shit. They're just laying this all out there. So in 2026, now they can say, well, in all the special elections, we're undefeated. We're the world champs in special elections during Trump's second term, back-to-back champs. I don't know where the back-to-back came from, but anyways, I'll land that.
10 backs to backs. If they've flipped 10 since Trump took office. So elections are fake. We know elections are fake because we know how elections are manipulated, and those mechanisms haven't been solved yet. Right. So when back up, kind of an ongoing fight with a friend of mine who's really mad at me because I won't join campaigns. Right. She's got candidates. She wants my help in, campaigning, and I won't do it because elections are fake. And that makes people get really mad when I say that, but it's my firmly held belief, and I'm not going to equivocate on it because it's campaign season, because that's what everybody does. But there is, there are some election deniers that are running for office, and their position is that in November, so maybe not in the primaries, but in November, there are going to be so many eyes on, and there are going to be, the administration, the federal government, DOJ, the Civil Rights Division, ODNI, these people are focused on giving us real elections, right? On enabling real elections, removing the ability to cheat. And there is a hope, I would call it a hope, that that's going to be fixed by November. I don't know if I believe that, but I'm willing to hope in it. I hope we have real elections. I believe very much in elections. I think it's the manner in which we give consent to be governed in our society is incredibly important. If there's any truth to that, and by November we have the voter roll situation through the various litigation and legislation that we have, that sort of dealt with, that we have there's the SCOTUS case where they were talking about election day, right? That is widely considered to be one of the things that might actually impact the November election. If SCOTUS comes down with, no, it's got to be election day, you cannot accept ballots after election day, that impacts the upcoming elections. We don't have to wait until the next ones. That actually does impact the upcoming elections. The mail-in ballot limitations, oversight and so many eyes on that they can't do things like drawer 3 again, right? These kinds of things. If we have those things in place in November and we end up with real elections, that would be fantastic. We don't have them now though, right? So why I asked about the margin in that race, 51-49, is that's the story we've been told for a long time about our elections, that we are a 50-50 country and that everything is a cage match to come down to 1% of the vote at the end of the day. I don't believe that's real. I think that is a story that we've been told about the electorate, not the actual results of the electorate. And we know this from issues and just from being in community with, the people around us. that we're not, we if you think about the SAVE Act, 83% of the electorate believes in voter ID and believes that only citizens should be able to vote in U.S. elections. But then we run an election and we find out that we're 50-50 on certain issues. I don't believe it. And so it doesn't surprise me that we would still have the quote unquote old way now in the special election, because, if we're considering some sort of plan, some sort of, step-by-step approach to get us out of this and into something resembling real elections where the will of the people is what governs, then I think we would, it's not terribly surprising that we would still see the old way happening now. If then in November we have something resembling a real election, and again, I don't think we can have a real election until we're honest about how fake they are. So I'm not saying that if the outcome goes the way I want it to, then I'm going to say it was a real election. Certainly not. We have to have honesty about how fake elections have been. But it's going to make these contests really suspect in hindsight, right?
Well, when you look at like you were talking about DNI and all these entities that are investigating, the FBI looking into Fulton County, DNI in Puerto Rico, Maricopa. What happens? So you and I are doing that book on Badlands Book Club, the Stolen Elections book, and one of the themes in that book, and something we're seeing now in the mainstream, like coming out, we got Eric Coomer's deposition and the grand jury testimony, and we're seeing that there is the remote connectivity capabilities of these machines. So what happens now, given that side saying they have the capability, and then the official investigatory side, or the government basically taking these machines, looking into them and saying, yeah, he's right, they do have that capability. What do we do in that situation? Is this where President Trump, says in the 2024 election, hey, evangelicals, I only need you this one time. After this, we won't need you anymore, meaning you won't need to vote again. What happens if it comes out that, yes, these machines do have that remote connectivity? Yes, there is backdoors into the system. Or as, Clay said yesterday when we were playing Mark Cook's testimony, who's, by the way, joining us on Why We Vote, Mark Cook, not Clay, although Clay's more than welcome to.
Anytime, Clay.
Yes, absolutely. He knows that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what happens if all of that, my dog just fell through the armoire. It pushed forward while he was laying down and he fell in the gap. What happens if that comes out and we find out that this is these backdoors exist on an official level?
Yeah, that's the thing. We know that the machines have capability to connect. We know that they can accidentally reconnect in the middle of an election event. We know that because the Secretary of State of Colorado gives guidance to clerks to check in the middle of the election period and make sure that your machines don't accidentally reconnect to the internet. And Brian's right, accidentally, because how does that happen?
Right.
We know that in Georgia, they had issues with one of the precincts, the poll pads having the wrong precinct loaded on them. And so they called the help desk, which happened to be in Colorado Springs, according to reporting at the time. And they were able to remotely fix the problem. So what happens if it comes out, Brian, that these things exist? We know they exist. Are we going to be honest about it? Are we going to have honesty from the officials, to your point, an official acknowledgement that these problems exist? Are we going to be honest about it? Because if we are, I think it's our greatest hope, right, is that we're going to be honest about how fake elections have been so that we can have a real mechanism by which we give our consent to be governed or not. And that's really where the hope is at this point. We don't need more evidence. We don't need we don't need one more stolen election to prove that elections can be stolen. We have all of the evidence. We just need people to stop lying about it.
Yes, spot on. You said Colorado Springs, where they remotely fixed the machine?
Yeah, I heard that on a radio program at the time. They were talking about this issue. Forget which county it was, but they turned on the poll pads, all the devices, the local devices, and they had the wrong precinct loaded in the precinct that they were in. Called the help desk. It was a throwaway line that they called a help desk in Colorado Springs. That disappeared real quick. And And of course, Dominion headquarters is here in the state of Colorado. So.
Well, the reason I bring that up, and we've talked about this many times, is they did the same thing in Coffee County, where Kathy Latham and the county board of elections chair put pressure on the Dominion tech that was there in the room and said, "Get this fixed now, or I'm calling the media. We're going to get the media down here." And this was the runoff, so this is following November 3, right? This is following the 2020 election, and they know, the Dominion tech knows the media is the worst thing you could possibly get in a situation like that. And the guy was able to fix the machine without ever touching it. Went outside, called his boss, and it got fixed. I mean, the evidence
Just wipe the lens again, Brian. Just wipe the lens one more time.
One more time.
Oh, it did it.
Lens.
Wow.
Even the Democrat was like, "Did you just see what I saw?" Yeah, I just saw that.
Even if you want to know more about that specific story, you can watch our Why We Vote episode with Kathy Latham, in which she went into detail about it, and it's maddening.
Why don't we, on that note there, Ash, you had a pretty big story out of Colorado involving an entity that we've talked about many times on this show, but mainly on Why We Vote, the Colorado County Clerks of Colorado Association, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on with that.
Yeah. And do you realize, just side note before I tell about the story, I joined John yesterday on the Daily Herald and talked a little bit about the story that I broke. And then later in the day received the actual resignation letter. So we'll talk a little bit about what's in there. But do you realize that the investigation into Stephen Richer is due to his actions as the president of the Arizona Elected Officials Association, the Professional Association, the Arizona CCCA equivalent. And we know, because Brian and I know election activists all over the nation, we know that this professional association dynamic is in play across the nation, where you have a unaccountable NGO professional association serving as essentially an arm of the government, acting as the point of escalation, the subject matter expert. Now, we've been screaming about this in Colorado for a while. I forget where you were. I think you were doing some Marine kind of thing. And I had Sean Smith join me on Why We Vote. And we went through Matt Crane, who is the head of the executive director of the Colorado County Clerks Association, CCCA, here in Colorado. He debunked the Mesa County image reports that Tina Peters had put out. So Tina Peters, everybody knows, took images in Mesa County. Those images were analyzed. They were before and after the trusted build. Those images were analyzed by experts, various experts. The images themselves were put up on torrents, so anybody who wanted to bring them down and analyze them could, and a lot of them did. And but we have the 3 Mesa County image reports. They show that there were 29,000 files deleted, that there were 30-something remote wireless connections into the machines, that there were other alternate databases, like a second set of books created inside of the images during the election event. And Matt Crane is, as I said, the subject matter expert. He's the point of escalation when anybody has questions about anything technical in our elections. His wife was a Dominion employee, literally vested in Dominion voting systems, although not anymore because it's Liberty Vote now, but whatever, right? So this association is Matt Crane, paid executive director, paid through the dues paid by counties. The counties pay those dues through tax dollars. So we're all paying his salary. He is the, when I have an open records request where I'd ask for something about LibreOffice. Sean and I talk about that LibreOffice aspect in the episode of Why We Vote that we did. But the clerk sends my open records request off to Matt Crane, who does not work for the government, who should not be involved in my exchange with my government, right? But they said, "Hell, Ash in America is asking for another record. Can we give her this?" And they don't know. They don't know whether or not it's okay to give me information about LibreOffice, because they don't know what LibreOffice is or what it does or why it's there. And they don't really care because they just rely on Matt Crane because they're not technologists, right? These guys, these clerks, they get elected, and so they rely very much on the subject matter expertise. Now, this guy is a lobbyist with 5280 Strategies. He is the source on talking points I have as part of my trial record, or evidence exhibits in my trial. him sending talking points to all of the clerks and to all of the General Assembly about how to debunk what, Sean and Holly and I were talking about with regards to the election systems. He's wrong also, by the way. He's wrong about how these things are debunked. All right, so that's the backstory of who this guy is and what the association is. And again, this dynamic is across the country, where you have these professional associations, because our centralization creates complexity and complexity breeds and hides corruption. Because our election systems are so centralized and complex, you need the experts, and you have to trust the experts. The elected officials have to trust the experts. So we have Matt Crane, and then we have clerks that are in elected positions: president, vice president. There's president-elect. That person acts for a year in a president-elect role. And this is the kind of governance of this professional association. Well, on Monday, I was tipped off that the vice president, who is the clerk of the largest county in Colorado, El Paso County — you guys have heard me talk a lot about El Paso County. It's where the Air Force Academy is, only county in the nation home to 5 military commands. You have the Olympics there, right? This is where Colorado Springs is the county seat. And he resigned his vice president of CCCA, and he withdrew the county from membership. And the reason that he talks about as to why he did. So originally I got email correspondence between the clerk and a constituent, and he was really candid. So I published excerpts of that. And then I did open records requests. And in the fastest fulfillment I've ever received of open records requests, I received his actual resignation letter to the other members of the CCCA. And it's up on my Substack, ashenamerica.substack.com. It confirms everything that we've been saying about this. Outside influence. He was the elected VP. He was prevented from being in meetings because he was told that the Secretary of State's office didn't trust him, so he couldn't be there. And his position was, this is our association that is paid by our dues are paid by our constituents. We are there to represent our constituents. And you're telling me that my participation as vice president is dependent upon an outside entity, the Secretary of State's office? Do we work for the Secretary of State? He also mentions a local NGO, America Votes is the name of the NGO, the Attorney for America Votes, essentially being the authority on election legislation. There's a kind of omnibus election bill coming through that has like 20 something amendments associated with it already. And it's, transforming they've passed election legislation all the time. But the level of corruption that is being alleged by the clerk of the largest county in the state of Colorado is explosive. I'll tell you, I've told you this before, like I do my daily history updates, right? I get a pretty regular amount of views on those. If I do like a Tina Peters article, I get 2x, right?
Oh,
so
2x. Okay.
Yeah, I get 2x.
Good.
On this story, 4x.
Wow.
Like this, it's a really big deal. People are freaking out. I did radio about it this morning. I'm doing radio about it again tomorrow. Like this is a story that has captured people's attention because we're getting an inside view at the shadow forces ruling our government.
Yeah, and so in terms of these NGOs, I mean, and it's not just your local election officials that have these. It goes all the way up to the secretaries of state, right? The NAS, National Association of Secretaries of State, National Association of State Legislators. These associations have been running our country, and me and Ash talked about this several months back. But these are essentially meetings of elected officials under the guise of members of the NGO rather than the elected officials, but they're meeting with other elected officials. I think that is a crime. Well, not a crime, but I think it is a civil violation for them to be meeting in that fashion and not be susceptible to open records and other things like that. And, that's something that needs to be hashed out here because there needs to be transparency in these meetings of our elected officials when they're having these backroom kind of meetings, and especially when they're putting out stuff like we went through the Colorado County clerks when they refuted the Mesa reports and when they refuted all of that stuff. I mean, these are NGOs essentially using elected officials and playing on the credibility of the elected officials in order to influence decisions and influence what would you call it? Opinions, I guess, about, whether or not election fraud. Well, the County Clerks Association said that the election was not stolen because of this, this, and this. Well, nobody got to debate that. Nobody got to refute that. Nobody got to see how the sausage was made. So
yeah, to your point, I just want to put a fine point on this about the obstruction and not being subject to open records. So we were covering what was going down in Georgia, right? Fulton County, Joe Rossi finally getting the opportunity to tell, his findings after that whole thing went down. We were covering that, Brian, and he brought up Ryan Macias, right? And Ryan Macias and the elections group on the recount, December 3rd, I believe it was, recount of the 2020 election in Fulton County. They didn't match, right? They didn't have enough ballots for the reported number of votes. And they sent it to Ryan Macias in the elections group, and it came back and it matched. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
At the time that we were talking about that, so we went out with it, right? At the time that we were talking about that, Ryan Macias was here in Colorado at the Colorado County Clerks Association annual meeting. And I, found that out because we went out with the Ryan Macias thing from Georgia. One of my sources said, hey, you realize like Ryan Macias is here right now in Colorado. And I'm like, that's crazy. So I, kind of blew that up on X. You know what the net effect of that is?
No.
The Colorado clerks, when they go to CCA meetings, are no longer able to use their phones. In response to what happened, they were told they're not allowed to use their phones in CCCA meetings because it puts everybody in danger if we know that they're talking to Ryan Macias at the time that he's being exposed down in Georgia. And by the way, he was there pitching a new NGO to the clerks.
This is the public-private partnership. Mm-hmm. And this isn't even the public-private partnership. This is the literal blending of the two. It's not a partnership anymore. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It is our elected officials, operating under NGOs in order to operate in the shadows. That is nuts. And they're being
and in partnership with the vendors.
Right. Exactly.
So this is all, the government entities, the pseudo governmental entities like the NGOs, the authorities, the professional associations, and then you have the corporations, the vendors, and they're all aligned. You can see this in the EIISAC, the MSISAC. These guys are all aligned. Keep the people out of it. People are too stupid to understand things like spearfishing, right? So we can't tell because we have to keep our story going. So we're all going to get on the same page. We're all part of this, this collaborative public-private entity that's going to enable us to talk about things like over 70% of the devices used in the 2020 election being subject and vulnerable to spearfishing attacks determined by CISA. And what do? Well, we slap a traffic limiting protocol on top of that so that we don't have to tell the people. We'll just tell everybody involved in the advisory council and related. Well, who is that? Well, it's all the people that are invested in the status quo of the system. Prevent inquiry, prevent exposure, keep the story of safest and most secure going, because the last thing that we want to do is have the people remove the ability to fabricate consent. All
right. Clay has told us to move on, so let's continue on with the show. I'm sure we'll talk more about this again on why we vote.
Clay does not determine what happens on this show. And also, he's being a real tease. He's being a real tease in the chat.
He's yelling at you for not addressing Colonel Smith by his rank. And I told him that you're a civilian. You don't have to. So there's that. But
I refer to Colonel Smith as just like my brother. Love him, take a bullet for him, want to strangle him most of the time.
Sean's awesome. Colonel Smith is awesome. All right, let's jump into this here. So Marquain Mullins confirmed as DHS and has this to say about the Save American Act during a press conference asked about the reconciliation bill.
Thank you. Lindsey Graham, the chairman where the reconciliation will funnel through, he is committed to making sure we get reconciliation through. If that is in some form with funding ICE, possibly backfilling from the One Big Beautiful Bill, but also more importantly, the Save American Act. There's a framework that we can do through reconciliation, paying for it, put some of the policies that cost money in, because there's nothing more important than the Save American Act. I mean, that's what the American people want. There's 80% of the population say they want only Americans voting, citizens that are registered to vote, citizens that have done it the right way. And I believe that everybody wants an election integrity. So fortunately, Lindsey Graham has said through reconciliation, he's willing to put the framework out for that.
All right. So Lindsey Graham all of a sudden coming to the table, but there's a lot of pushback, and we've had two people that have been in Congress that have been the loudest voices, I would say, in supporting the Save America Act, and that would be Mike Lee and Una Banca, right? Anna Paulina Luna and Mike Lee have been the loudest, in my opinion, in what we've covered here. So this is what Mike Lee had to say about putting it in the reconciliation bill.
There are a lot of things that can be passed through a Senate procedure known as budget reconciliation, through which we can pass things with a simple majority vote. The Save America Act isn't one of those things. It can't pass through budget reconciliation because it's a policy. It is not budgetary, and even if you attach money to it, there are things at the margins we could do to help facilitate compliance with it. But the restrictions themselves have basically zero chance of meeting the standard to pass through budget reconciliation. So look, regardless, there are other reasons out there to do budget reconciliation. Do not be fooled into thinking that we can set down the Save America Act, and just pick it up on budget reconciliation. That's not going to work. Thanks.
All right. So you got Mike Lee there saying this can't be done. Una Panuna, of course.
And who said it could? Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham, John Kennedy is the one that first proposed this idea. Last week, Senator Kennedy said we got to try it because it's too important not to get it passed, and we got to do something. Thune, of course, is talking about it. We'll give it, and I'll play the clip from Thune here in a second. But Anna Paulina Luna said the Senate is sidestepping the Save America Act during the last reconciliation. The parliamentarian stripped out a significant amount. Now the Senate is looking to play the blame game with the parliamentarian. Under reconciliation, you can't legislate policy, meaning you cannot include the Save America Act. I will be a no on reconciliation. So stop sidestepping America, Leader Thune. They're literally trying everything they can to get out of voting for voter ID, and it's disgusting. And I'll play Speaker Thune right here real quick. Talking about.
Well, hang on a second. Hang on. Before you play Leader Thune, you have to. Oh.
I knew what you were going to do.
It's not about knowing what I was going to do. It's about knowing what you should do, Brian.
I was going to save it. You're
going to save America?
Yes, I was going to save America.
American.
I was going to save Una Banca.
If you do pursue reconciliation to pass elements of the Save Act, do you commit to abiding by the parliamentarian's advice on what can and cannot be in there, or might you overrule her if you disagree?
Well, we had, as you know, many conversations with the parliamentarian during the budget reconciliation bill that passed last summer. And I would expect that. That's an iterative process and a back and forth, sometimes trading back different ideas to see what works. But obviously, the parliamentarian has a role to play in that process. And in the past, we have respected it. And I would expect we would do that.
All right. So he says the parliamentarian has a role to play in this. So the parliamentarian is an unelected, nonpartisan lawyer who sits there and says, yeah, you can put this in there. No, you can't put this in there. Yes, you can do this. No, you can't do that. They're ruling, the parliamentarian's decision ultimately has zero bearing on anything. Okay. Let me play this real quick. And this is playing into, this is the Democrats. I think this was back around 2021.
On Sunday, Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough shot down Democrats' plans to include green cards for millions of immigrants in the proposed $3.5 trillion budget plan. Democrat Representative Ilhan tweeted, "This ruling by the parliamentarian is only a recommendation. Senator Schumer and the White House can and should ignore it. So let's verify. Can Democrats ignore the parliamentarians' decision and keep this language in the bill? Our sources are Casey Burgett from the George Washington University, David Super from Georgetown University, and Bill Hoagland from the Bipartisan Policy Center. First, here's the process. To pass a bill in the Senate, typically you need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster. But when it comes to reconciliation, often referred to as budget bills, you need just a simple majority, or 50 votes. To keep lawmakers from using this as a way to get around the filibuster, you have the Byrd Rule. It dictates that, generally speaking, you can only put budget issues in a budget bill.
This is a set of provisions in law that basically say what you can and cannot do.
The Byrd Rule has 6 prongs with it. And if you ask 100 different experts, you're going to get about 99 different answers of what is applicable and how those 6 prongs are applied to any given piece of legislation.
In the end, that decision goes to the Senate parliamentarian.
The idea is you get a career expert who is not beholden to either party, and she will evaluate these matters and see whether they fit.
They're kind of the umpire, the rule keeper.
So can the Senate simply ignore the parliamentarian? Our sources say that the answer is yes, although this would be controversial. Our experts agree that with a 60-person vote, they could waive the point of order, essentially overruling the recommendation. So we could verify that yes, senators can choose to ignore the parliamentarian's recommendation, but our experts say it would not be an easy process. Meanwhile, there is one other way that the majority can push the policy through. The Senate Majority Leader could have the parliamentarian fired and replaced with someone else.
Go.
Well, highly controversial. This has been done before. With your verify, I'm
so
fire them all.
First and foremost, in Washington, D.C., there is no such thing as nonpartisan, period. Hard stop. There is no such thing.
It's all unipartisan.
Exactly. It's unipartisan. You go out there, you find somebody from Nebraska or, Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma's pretty
Maine and Alaska, maybe.
Yeah. Get somebody from flyover America, right? And get them as the parliamentarian. And they only can do it from where they're at. And they also are air gapped, so they can't.
It's as real as every other air gap, Brian.
But here's the thing. So they're saying that the parliamentarian can say that, no, you can't put the Save America Act in a budget reconciliation bill. But that is just a suggestion. It's a recommendation. Thune is already saying, well, we're going to go ahead and heed that warning from the parliamentarian. And, you got the verified people. By the way, you saw the people that were speaking in that, the witnesses, Georgetown, George Mason, the Bipartisan Partisan Center, the Bipartisan Policy Center, Partisan Center, same thing. What are the odds? Hold on. Just if we could just wipe their memory of what they said in 2021.
Like black them.
Yeah. Just like staring to this beep. What are the odds that they would come on this program about the Save America Act and say that same exact thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's here.
But
yeah, so what enrages me about this is that it's all their own internal bullshit rules. Right? Like, oh, we can't do it this, we can't. So I think the fact that we're even discussing trying to sneak this thing into a budget reconciliation bill instead of making every single one of them be on the record as opposed to 83% of the American people, that's where we should be. And Leader Thune should not be leader if he can't put the hammer down on that. Like, we're going to try and bend ourselves into pretzels to pass voter ID. And oh, by the way, the greatest beneficiaries of fake elections are the ones making the decision. Like, I can be convinced, and there are people on Badlands who, take this position. I can be convinced, I'm getting closer and closer to it, that this whole season that we're in right now is to reveal in spectacular fashion how illegitimate and absolutely ridiculous this all is. Because we have 83% of the American people want real elections. They want to make sure that we don't have inflated voter rolls, that we don't have a bunch of criminal invaders or dead people or just fabricated Red Belly Road people voting in our elections. We like voting, right? I mean, the American people understand the assignment based on the polling numbers, and polling is fake, but they would not. when I say polling is fake at 83% of the Save America Act, my opinion is that it's probably much higher.
Yes.
It's probably right, because they're the people that do polling want to keep the status quo in place. So the idea that we have to do procedural gymnastics to pass an 83% piece of legislation shows you just how illegitimate this body is. And every single one of them should be put on the record. If they do the procedural gymnastics to pass it or to dilute it and then pass it or whatever they have to do to get it over the line, if they do that, it should be even more of an example of how illegitimate they are.
So check this out, Ash. Do you know how old the office of the parliamentarian is?
No.
It's younger than Chuck Grassley.
Oh my.
It was established in 1934.
92, I think, right?
He's 92.
Yeah.
Office of the parliamentarian was established in 1935. It is not a constitutional office. It is not a constitutional requirement. It is a made-up office that they put in place to handle them and to keep the status quo. To keep the status quo. To keep this balance. 1935. FDR.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now that tracks.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
yes,
it sure does.
So let me just pull this up real quick because I was playing around with the machine this morning.
Grassley, that's hilarious.
Well,
Who was the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, right? So, 92 years old.
Well, Maxine Waters is running to be the head of she's running for office again at 87, but she's running to be the head of the Financial Services Committee in the House, which is arguably one of the most powerful committees that we have besides maybe appropriations and judiciary. So check this out. I asked historical instances when the Senate overruled or fired the parliamentarian and their long-term impacts on Senate procedures. 1975, there's a cloture fight and the majority vote precedent. Nelson Rockefeller submitted a motion and a point of order in a way that allowed the Senate to sustain a ruling permanent cloture on a rules change by simple majority rather than 2/3. 1987, Byrd fires Robert Dove. I'm assuming that's where the Byrd rule came from. By the way, Robert Byrd, the KKK member that was the longest sitting Democrat ever in congressional history.
Good friend, right?
Joe Biden's good friend. You Googleized him at the
Googly.
What? You don't think I know how to give you googly? Little Zoolander joke there, guys. 2001, Lott fires Dove over reconciliation rulings. So twice this guy got fired. In 14 years, this guy was the same. Robert Dove fired twice as the parliamentarian. I guess he got hired back. 2013, Reed's nuclear option on nominations. 2017, McConnell extends the nuclear option to the Supreme Court. So in other words, the bottom line here is when they say that, well, we can't do this. This is, we're gonna.
They make up their own rules.
They make up their own fucking rules. They make up their own rules. Not only that. I guarantee you, if I do a deeper dive on all of those instances where the parliamentarian was overruled, I guarantee you the issue at hand that got overruled did not have an 85, 83, 89% approval among American citizens. Guarantee it. I will guarantee
it's over 70% in all demographic breakdowns.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's over than that. I think 80.
It's high. No, it's high. It's high. I just can't. I get mixed up on whether it's 73 for this group or 76, but it's over 70 for all demographic breakdowns. And you can't they're just playing games. And to be told that well, we can't because of the parliamentarian. You made that up. You made up these rules. You've made up all of these complicated centralized procedures so that you have plausible deniability when you don't want to do something. And guess what? That's where we're at.
Yep.
The United States Senate does not want to pass voter ID and citizenship requirements for elections because they are the primary beneficiaries of fake elections. And that's all we're watching is them fighting. They are raging against the dying of the light of their season of unfettered illegitimacy. It's coming to an end. People see you. We see you, Thune.
Yep. All right, we're going to continue. I told you, Asawavana, but we do have to hit a sponsor real quick before we move on to the next story. So let's go ahead and check this here. And we will talk to you guys a little bit about our friends over at Rumble. Little inside scoop many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons that we use Rumble. They made a way to super chat creators so that they get paid immediately and without any fees. Big time. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% when you tip the creators you love. This method takes none. And that's right. The platform takes 0 fees. You get to keep, we get to keep nearly 100% of whatever you send to us as a tip, as a chat, Rumble, rand, a super chat, whatever. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether US dollars, USD, excuse me, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip will show up directly in our Rumble chat, which we will always do our best to read. And we will read them. And all you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the App Store. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. You know, you guys don't want us to be sitting here playing GLP-1 ads all day long. So, you know, like CNN and all those other media outlets. So we depend heavily on your support, and that's a great way to support us. Another great way to support us is to smash that thumbs up. And if you have not done so already, we got 737. That's a omen right there. 737.
It's not a Boeing.
Yeah, right. Give me the Airbus, man.
Give me the Airbus.
Airbuses are so much more comfortable than the Boeings. Okay, let's Asawavana. We got a new expose from O'Keefe, continuing on with his California exposure. This one's a little more damning. Check this out.
So do you want to sign? Okay. The first name.
I'm Joseph Albright. Okay.
The first name.
Joseph Albright.
Clearly that's a woman, but she's signing for Joseph Albright.
Fraudulent petitioners on Skid Row are now paying the homeless to forge names, forge addresses, and forge signatures of registered voters.
What are you using? Teresa.
No, I'm gonna give you your address to write.
Oh, okay.
Follow directions.
Okay, yeah. Quickly becoming a widespread scheme that can be found on almost every street corner in downtown Los Angeles.
So you're gonna go do this, they're gonna give you another $3. Then you're gonna do somebody else, they're gonna give you another $3.
So you guys are all working together.
You scared me.
We find thousands of names and addresses of registered voters being handed out to the homeless on scraps of paper.
Oh, cool. They pay you? How much? Oh, what name you have there? Oh, it's Vicky Walker. You're Vicky, huh? No. He gave me the name. Oh, cool.
We track down the disenfranchised voters at their homes to get the reaction to their signature being forged. They're giving names of currently registered voters, and one of them is a Vicky Walker. I assume that's his address?
Still get her ballot, but...
You still get her ballot?
Yeah. Doesn't live here. I bought this house nearly 9 years ago.
Okay.
So that's why I always feel really weird when I get the voting ballot. It's like, obviously that's fraudulent.
Definitely want to stay informed. We definitely want to follow through on this and see where they're getting this information, how they're getting this information.
Yeah. I just hope we get a stop to this soon. I mean, I didn't know that they were using my name and address for what's political fraud. That's what it is, right? Yeah. Just hopefully the governor and the district attorney or whatever just put a stop to this. Yeah.
I had to stop on this scene right here before we talk about this because I am homeless. James O'Keefe is the best James O'Keefe.
So awesome.
I mean, this is so going to these homes.
It's a lot of
felonies, but nobody's catching it, Ash, because these people don't exist. She used to live at this house 9 years ago. Did she? Did she really live at that house, or is it just a made-up person in the Social Security Administration database that's on her voter rolls because somehow it gets transferred over there and the person doesn't even exist? And so if the person doesn't even exist, there's no disenfranchisement or no person to claim disenfranchisement. So the crime goes completely under the radar. Where this isn't, I think this is a very complex and highly orchestrated scheme that's going on at the higher levels, and then it gets delegated down to the homeless people that just want to go out there and get their $3. But I think this is a lot more sophisticated, and when we see this all kind of come out, I think it's going to be I think this is where the Social Security Administration database ties into this.
Yeah, so I think it's I think you're spot on about how highly coordinated and complex it is. I would be more inclined to believe that the people were real, right? That they are real identities that maybe lived at that house, maybe not. And that's why these are the specific names that are being given to homeless people, because a couple things. One, plausible deniability. Oh, it's just a clerical error. It's just, we just messed up, right? Like we met, like the whoops, they died and they didn't come off the rolls, or they moved and it didn't get updated. And, we don't ever want to disenfranchise a single voter. So once you get somebody on the rolls, it is damn near impossible to get them off. And so if you have, and especially if they're in that active status, right? If they're in active voter status and not inactive voter. So it could be that this process is moving voters from inactive to, old illegitimate voters from inactive to active status, which keeps those identities going. And they just need the identities, right? For the machine, the election fraud machine to run. Clay says, no, some are totally fake. I believe that too, right? I mean, I don't think it's one thing or another. And I don't think if we, debunk that these people were real, then the whole thing is like a nonsense. It's a very complicated, fake voters, fake ballots, fake accounts comes together in this like weird matrix of different modules that levers you can pull on for election fraud. I firmly believe that because we've seen it. We've seen these levers pulled across the nation, depending on the circumstances of where they're engaging in election fraud. We see the different mechanisms in play. This is, by the way, why we have to wipe out the existing voter rolls and start over. You cannot unfuck this.
Yep.
It is so unbelievably corrupted to the point where James O'Keefe has captured NGOs paying homeless people to engage in fraud, identity fraud, whether those identities are real or not. The intention of the homeless person and the NGO is to engage in identity fraud for the purposes of manipulating an election. That's multiple felonies. It's a portfolio of crime. Do something about it.
And so, geez, I can hear your microphone vibrating from you banging the desk. I did the objection yesterday. Remember, was that on book club where I was doing the banging? You're spot on with that. And the point about the voter rolls, 29 states now fighting against any sort of an audit, never been done before by the federal government to go through these voter rolls. They put the SAVE, not the SAVE Act, but the SAVE system out there to allow these, states. And Harmeet Dillon has talked over and over again about hundreds of thousands of people that have been on the rolls. Now, granted, this doesn't always fan out to they're casting a vote or whatever, but we simply don't know. Also, the states that are cooperating are the states that are probably least likely to have that type of participation. The ones that are, staunchly refusing and taking it all the way, as far as they can to the Supreme Court, eventually, I'm sure, are the ones that most likely sanctuary cities, the sanctuary states where these people are engaging with government, being registered through automatic voter registration, a check in the box. Are you a citizen? Yes. Do you need any validation? No. Okay, so they just, even if they don't check it, who knows if somebody eventually, as that paper is being passed down the line, checks it off, they send it off to Eric or whatever voter registration database management system that they have, and nobody is checking this all the meanwhile. Now, is that person, and you and I talk about this all the time, is that person going to vote? Probably not. Right. I think most people understand I'm not legal, I can't vote. So somebody else votes in their place. You have homeless people during election season. Instead of doing it on the streets, you spend a couple $1,000s, you rent out a warehouse, you bring them all into the warehouse, and you do it under the cloak of darkness where nobody's going to see you doing it, right?
Back room in the homeless shelter, Brian.
Back rooms. Yep. Or yeah, exactly. And I've told the story before in Colorado. I had a whistleblower that came forward and said that homeless shelters have these ballots everywhere. You could just go in there. They're asking you want a ballot? Here, take 10. Go ahead and fill them out. Here's how you fill it out. The White House responded to this O'Keefe video, said President Trump has been the #1 advocate for election security in America, and he will not back down. That's why he has so passionately been advocating for the Save America Act, common sense legislation supported by the vast majority of Americans, including 90% of who support voter ID, who want to ensure our elections are secure and that only American citizens vote in American elections. The Trump administration will always take seriously any allegation that the law has been broken and is grateful for intrepid reporters working hard to bring attention to these issues. but this is low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this last week when we were doing the JJ Smith expose in San Francisco. Same exact thing as what O'Keefe is seeing in Los Angeles, but 7 hours away. I don't know how far LA is from San Francisco. I know where they are on the map, but driving distance, I don't know. But hours and hours away in San Francisco, the same exact thing is taking place. So this, at this point, is a system of fraud that's being utilized throughout California and probably elsewhere as well. We need more than just passing the Save America Act. This is low-hanging fruit. Go after this. This needs to be thoroughly investigated and not just seeing arrests at the lower level, like the Somali fraud right there. We got 96 Somalians that are doing the money laundering. No, who's enabling it? Who's the ones enabling it? Unless you go after the beast itself, it's going to continue to spawn out. So I'll land that there.
Yeah. Well said.
All right. Let me pull up this post. I was going to pull this up earlier, but it's relative to this story too. So there's this story going on right now. Alexis Wilkins, the girlfriend of FBI Director Kash Patel. We're not going to get into this story. It's kind of weird. Moral of the story, so she's making this allegation that General Flynn is leading like a whole organization to subvert President Trump and ultimately lead to his
So hang on a second. She did not make that assertion. She published a thread with data, right? 13 posts of different data points that she has found in her research, looking at digital, what she's kind of framing as digital psyops, and she names names of people that she believes are in, but she says at the end of it, I'm not making assertions against these people. I'm telling you what the data shows.
So okay, so again, I'm not going through that. I did read that post this morning. It is very interesting, but that's not the focus of this. What Brianna Morello said in response, I think, is the relatable part to what we're talking about now. So Alexis Wilkins says, moral of the story, we have midterms to unite for. Stop fighting the grifters trying to ruin all of whatever we worked for. Shape up or ship out. Vote for this country. Support our military, our law enforcement who need our support. This admin doing its best to restore common sense so we can still get rid of the deep state that still exists. We don't need profiteering podcasters to wreck that. Okay. Brianna Morello had a very an excellent response. There's a myth that if Republicans lose these upcoming midterms, that the podcasters are to blame. Podcasters that criticize their government aren't the problem. The problem is the elected officials that were given the majority in all three branches, plus a conservative majority in the Supreme Court, and did nothing with it.
Damn. Yeah, she's right.
Brianna Morello.
She's right. I mean, this is oh my gosh, we're going to lose the midterm. So what? We can not pass more legislation because we haven't been able to accomplish anything with the full control of the federal government. So, and as we just spent, too much time talking about, the Republican controlled branches of Congress are to blame for that. So can't really blame voters for not wanting more of the same. And I have a hard time with vote. Like, we don't know how voters vote. We can't blame voters for the impact of the outcome of fake elections. So, that the premise of it, I have a problem with. But also, to her point, it's, when we hit the midterms, we're at 2 years, almost 2 years of full control of the federal government by the Republican Party, and they have absolutely shit the bed. So,
yep, absolutely.
You can't blame us for that.
Nope. And you can't blame President Trump either, because he's out there waiting for all this. He's put together the teams. He's put together, and I can't wait until some of these people get to, disclose some of the things that took place and the obfuscations and everything else. The system is utterly broken, man. It is just utterly broken. And I don't know. Let's we'll move on now. I don't know if you saw, but DOJ confirmed the new deputy assistant attorney general to investigate fraud, Colin McDonald.
No, I did not.
Now it's not fraud as in election fraud. It's the Somali fraud and the
important.
Yeah, the more important fraud than having free and fair elections.
I didn't say more important. I said all of the frauds are important. right? It's important to prosecute all of the frauds. And we could do more than one thing, right?
Yes, I'm being sarcastic and saying
I know.
that. Okay, just making sure, clarifying that. All right, let's get into this story. This one's going to take a little bit of time because there's a lot of audio here. From Media put this out. Betrayal, the Charlie Kirk show, utterly disgusted after Joe Kent says that he'd testify at alleged assassin's trial. Now, let's go ahead first and play this clip here from Schellenberger's interview with Joe Kent. And it's a little bit long. I've got it on 1 1/4 speed, but listen to what he says here.
Do you think that the FBI's leak investigation into you was weaponized to silence your, what you were saying, or was it retaliation? Or was it before you wrote your note and left?
It wasn't before I wrote my note and left. Up until the time I told the vice president and the president that I was done, I had full access. I was fully the director. The procedure when you're under investigation is they at least suspend your clearance. And so none of that happened. No one had talked to me. So I view this as not necessarily even retaliation yet. I view it as a media counter narrative. I don't take it very credible because if the FBI was really going to come after me, they wouldn't leak it to a bunch of media outlets, but they leaked it at a time. I don't think the FBI leaked it. I think like the White House comm shop leaked it to come out at the same time my Tucker interview was coming out. It just seems to me like more of a media counter narrative than anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. And are you asking for? Do you want a Office of Inspector General investigation or a congressional investigation? What are your asks?
I don't know if I really have any specific asks. I just want the murder of Charlie Kirk, in terms of Charlie Kirk. I just want the murder of Charlie Kirk to be fully investigated. And as I said, previously, like on Tucker and other programs, I know for a fact that at least the foreign ties portion that NCTC was responsible for, that was not thoroughly investigated. So yeah, I would like that investigation to continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing. So, I mean, do you feel like can you just say, was it just sort of a kind of pattern analysis and speculation, or were you actually seeing like signals intelligence, financial records, travel data, intercepts, something that was more concrete that when you refer to those leads, I think you said the decent amount of leads that came up?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say almost all of the above, because I don't think we really even got very far. And so I can't say that like, hey, there's this one thing that I think is hotter of a lead than another lead. We had a decent amount of leads because there's a big crowd there that day. Charlie had an international following, right? So we were just at the very beginning of doing basic investigatory work on foreign leads. So I can't even tell you on or off the record, like, hey, this one thing. There's a couple specific things that I would, if I were put back on the case, I would start looking at immediately because I think they require attention that I can't get into. But just doing the basic, I would say, curious investigator work 101. We didn't get started on that, or we had just got started and we kind of got waved off.
Okay, and had you seen anything on any specific foreign country?
Not foreign countries specifically. Our goal was, our purview was foreign, period. So that could be foreign countries, foreign businesses, that could be foreign individuals. I didn't have any like this one country was heavily implicated, et cetera. There's some that have already been in the news that I don't want to point to give them more or less credibility. So yeah, I mean, yeah, there were still more foreign links, I think is the best way to put it.
And then, so nothing, just to address the speculation, nothing specifically on Israel.
No, nothing specific on like the state of Israel. No.
And nothing specific on.
You caught that too?
So the story about this right now that Turning Point USA is coming out is that Joe Kent immediately went to them and said Israel did it, right? And this is the opposite of that. So,
well, not only that, did you catch what Joe Kent did right there? Schellenberger said, so nothing about Israel, right? And Kent turned around and said, no, nothing about the state of Israel.
Like Israel cutouts or...
it'd be speculating for me to say yes. So no, nothing specific on that. Again, like there was foreign leads that we needed to run down still that has to be looked into.
So then Schellenberger asked, well, nothing like Israel cutouts or anything. And then it turns into, it was definitive, nothing on the state of Israel. Then when it turns to the cutouts, it's like, well, I don't want to speculate or, anything like that. Just a little bit more. And then we'll get into the TPUSA response.
Okay. I was just trying to figure out if it was just like, in other words, it sounded like from the interview that it was just kind of Charlie had warned against the war. He had complained. Certainly, it looks like in those messages that Candace Owens produced, complained of his Jewish donors. But like nothing beyond that suggesting like nobody like tied to Tyler. I mean, I guess the question is like, really, is there anything showing Tyler Robinson having relationships outside of himself? Because I think the whole idea appears to be, or is being prosecuted as just a lone shooter.
I personally have always found the lone shooter narrative to be challenging, but that's just my opinion. Again, my focus wasn't because Tyler Robinson is an American. Tyler was never exactly where we were looking. We were looking for links. And again, I fully investigating him for foreign links. I don't think that due diligence was done. Him and his associates is what I would say. I don't think that due diligence was done.
Okay, because I mean, do you think that because obviously, like we've seen a lot of people have seen a lot of you know, some.
All right, that's the last actual question that we get all the way through with an answer. So this is what we got in response from Turning Point USA, Andrew Clovet, who I guess is running the show over there now. I don't really follow them, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other. But this response, Ash, is extremely concerning to me because of, well, the constitutional aspect to what they're saying here. Check this out.
This is, I mean, this is a tough job for us today, to be honest, because this is really personal. I have been open to everything. I think, candidly, I don't get enough credit for even the fact that I shared these group chats in the first place. We shared a lot of information about trans, about Charlie, how Charlie was more concerned about than any other community about the trans coming after him. You want to know the truth? That's actually the truth. I heard over the course of the last 2 years of Charlie's life, probably about 50 references of how he knew that trans Tifa was going to come after him. And he was worried about that. That's the truth. Never mentioned one time about the Jews. Okay? Never once. And here's why it's so frustrating is because there is going to be even more evidence that is presented to the public in May at the evidentiary hearing. Okay? And it's a mountain of evidence, some of which has been made public, some of which has not been made public yet. And the prosecution is going to lay out its case against Tyler Robinson. And I'm told it's a whopper. I'm told they've got this guy dead to rights. And meanwhile, you have government officials that are now saying on the record to journalists, they are willing to testify on behalf of the defense to get, ostensibly, to get Tyler Robinson off the hook for something that he did.
You caught that too?
How dare you?
How the fuck are you going to say that?
And the justice it can be done. We know he's guilty. We know he's guilty. We have a mountain of evidence that he's guilty. We didn't do our due diligence in exploring any other possibilities other than the patsy being guilty. But we know he's guilty. And how dare somebody
come
testimony that might contradict the fact that we know he's guilty before he's had due process? Are you fucking kidding me?
When I heard that, Ash, I went berserk. Like, what? You just told your whole
You don't want to walk into a courtroom and have that be the standard that is applied to you. So why would you apply that standard to anyone else? Equal justice under the law. Due process rights are there is a reason that the Bill of Rights is what it is, and it is to prevent the government and people like this from deciding that you are guilty and before you've ever had a trial.
And we're not talking about some conspiracy. We're talking about a guy that was read in, had a clearance, was the National Counterterrorism Center director, was in charge of this, was, chief of staff to D&I Gabbard at one point for quite a while. That when I heard that, and for our audience, put yourself in those shoes. Imagine you're charged with murder for something. And you have a podcaster who's directly associated with the victim in this case saying, no, this guy should not be allowed to have a former government official testify on his behalf because he's guilty. Imagine if that was you sitting there listening to that and that guy poisoning the minds of millions of people that will watch Turning Point USA now. And you have people that do not understand the fundamental concept of our judicial system of innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I debated my local DA on the radio here about Tina Peters, and it was essentially the same thing. Well, we knew she was guilty, so it's totally fine. I'm paraphrasing and overstating what he said, but it was the gist. You know, we knew she was guilty. We knew she was guilty, so it's fine that we violated her due process rights at trial and poisoned the jury against her because we knew she was guilty and we needed to secure the conviction. That is you have jumped the shark. Yeah, this is not American jurisprudence anymore. We are not talking about the rights of the accused being protected. We are talking about witch hunts and political prosecutions. And I'm not a fan of Tyler Robinson, and I want Charlie Kirk's killer brought to justice. I don't know who it is. I told you, Brian, when that thing happened, like I was on the air when he was shot. It really fucked my head up being in that position and having to kind of like get out of that show, right, and everything. And I couldn't Scooby-Doo it. I couldn't Scooby-Doo the Charlie Kirk assassination. It was too much for me. I couldn't do that, right? But the idea that we're not going, that nobody can go and explore the different rabbit trails. The counterintelligence task force people can't explore alternate theories other than the trans adjacent kid that they've decided is definitely the murderer, and we know he's guilty. And Charlie was most worried about trans, right? Like he was so terrified about trans. And then we got this trans guy, and we know it's all buttoned up. We have all the evidence. We're going to present the evidence in May, and everybody's going to see it. So don't you dare introduce reasonable doubt. What? This is not conservative. I don't know what this is, but it's not conservative. We are not conserving the Constitution of the United States when we decide that people are guilty before they have their fucking trial.
Oh, hold on, Ash. Let's play the rest of it.
And so the level of betrayal that I currently feel is dramatic and extreme. The level of just frustration, the idiocy that is on full display, we have to call it out, because if this ends up screwing up the jury pool, if this ends up in some ways getting a hung jury, getting this case thrown out, or even just getting the death penalty off the case, off the potential list of consequences here, I'm not going to be happy with that. I'm telling you that as somebody who was open to all different options, I didn't care where the truth led. This is where the truth led. This is it. And for any fair-minded person, this is crackpot conspiracy, garbage, brain rot stuff. And now it's gotten really serious. This isn't podcaster junk. This isn't like social media conspiracy nonsense. This is an actual government official who's now going to be called to testify on behalf of the defense. And that is a bridge too far. That is a line in the sand that we must hold, because this could negatively impact the trial of the assassin of my friend, of Blake's friend. So that's the breaking news.
You.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. That is absolutely disgusting. What
the Bill of Rights is brain rot. Innocent until proven guilty is brain rot.
How dare you call a
Tyler Robinson having access to a fair trial with a jury of his peers where he's able to present a complete defense is brain rot, according to that piece of shit.
So again, Clovet is melting down over a government official that was part of the investigation and says that the investigation was not sufficient, and he's going to testify to that. That is nothing new. Any criminal case out there, that would be evidence that, the defendant would absolutely want, that they were not given a free and full investigation, right? The investigation, when you're doing an investigation, you don't just get a tunnel vision and run down one lead. You're constantly looking for all these different leads. And the fact that Joe Kent was said, no, tunnel vision, Tyler Robinson on the roof, 30-06, adamantium neck, insane.
Adamantium neck. No, we can't allow him to have a fair trial because it might mess up this conviction we've worked so hard to secure. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? This is not conservatism. This is not, there's nothing conservative about the position that we should violate the due process rights of the accused because we super duper know he's guilty. And don't tell me that you're conservative if you're not conserving the Constitution. That word means nothing. This is so, holy shit. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let's say that like the Candace Owens of it all is correct, and these guys actually are the ones. When this guy goes in for his trial, I will have exactly the same position. I will have exactly the same position about the rights of the accused, no matter what side of the issue it's on, because it is the most fundamental, most important body of rights that we have, is to not be determined to be guilty of something before you get your chance at a trial.
I'm going to, again, all of that stuff aside, I said I haven't talked about the Charlie Kirk thing because all of it has been just conspiratorial kind of things and, theories and this person and somebody leaked this to me and I got it, blah, blah, blah. Well, now we have a government official that's going on the record and saying, I will testify in this case. And you have Turning Point USA's, I don't know what his position is now, but he's hosting that show, melting down, saying, how dare you? The only and this Tyler Robinson has never been the shooter, in my opinion, never. And the two things, and I point this out every time, and I'm going to land it here. A 30-06 would blow a hole through, like his. This is going to be graphic. If you haven't seen what a 7.62, and if 30-06 is way bigger, you're talking about 160 to 180 grains traveling at anywhere between 2,600 and 2,800, maybe 3,000 feet per second. Muzzle velocity is like 3,200 feet per second. By the time it travels 120, 130 yards, it's probably slowed down to like 2,800 feet per second. The amount of energy in that 30-06 round would have blown the neck. It would have been hanging by whatever skin survived. And I know that's graphic, but that's just the way it is. And we saw now the video from the back. There's no exit wound at all. It is impossible. And these people that say, oh, it hit the spine and deflected down. No, it would blow the spine clean out. It would blow the spine clean out. That was not a 30-06 shot. And it was not whoever that shooter was on the roof.
It would sever his head.
It would.
I think a 30-06
not only
severed his head. And I've shot a 30-06. I own one.
It would have severed.
I lost it in a boating accident, but
not only that,
I shot it.
The pressure from the round would have exploded his head. The pressure hitting here would have exploded. It's called a temporary cavity. When you shoot like ballistic gel, if you shoot ballistic gel, you'll watch when the round hits, it balloons out like that, and then it closes in real quick. The ballooning out, if you stop it at its most, is called the temporary wound cavity. And that's the pressure of the round hitting and the separation of the tissue. As it travels through, it contracts back down, and that's called the permanent wound cavity. And that's usually what we look at for, determining Full Metal Jacket, hollow point rounds, what's better, and all that. A 30-06 temporary cavity is massive, massive. I mean, it would have the width of it would have been clear above his head. It would have pushed everything in his head out the top. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not. Then you pair that with the guy that was filming it. When you hear the gunshot and he turns to the right and you see the black figures already up and halfway across the roof. It wasn't the guy on that roof right there that shot that, because they told us he disassembled the rifle and then he jumped down and he was on the roof and
all of this, all of the inconsistencies in the official story are things that Tyler Robinson should be allowed to present in his defense at trial, right? Like he should be allowed to present a complete defense at trial. And Andrew is arguing against that because we know he's guilty. And how dare you impact our ability to secure a conviction of this guy? We really want this to go away. We really want to put it to bed so we can go on just running Turning Point USA and not have to, let's close the chapter on this whole thing. Hang on a second. What if it's not true? What if this is an intelligence operation and the trans kid is the patsy? Like I think all of these trans shooters are, right? Nope. We just have to, we know he's guilty. So we have to Have to secure the conviction. Don't present any evidence that might introduce reasonable doubt. You do not want to go into a court of law and have that standard applied to you. Every single person should be fighting against this, because if this is what happens, then it could happen to you.
Absolutely. And all the people out there point to, well, he confessed. We read the first off, he did not confess after he was Mirandized. He did not confess to authorities that he did this. They took text messages, which, we can view chain of custody, we can view metadata, all that stuff on it, because we read them on the air and they sounded ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nobody talks the way that those text messages were. Well, his parents, he said he confessed to his parents and they turned him in. No, his parents saw his mugshot plastered all over the news and said, you better turn yourself in, because this doesn't end good for you if they come and kick in the door with a SWAT team. That's what happened with that.
So Joe Kent says that he has personal firsthand knowledge that would, lead to the conviction of the killer of Charlie Kirk. Why are people concerned about that?
Well,
I mean, we're putting it before a jury.
Did he make that claim specifically? I didn't catch that he has firsthand knowledge that would lead to the conviction.
I thought I saw that he was that somebody involved early on in like right after the shooting happened reached out to him and gave him information. Right. Like immediately after the shooting. It was like a Twitter scroll though. So also I said that I lost my firearm in a boating accident, and Anner said why we boat, which I just think is delightful. So I wanted to read that.
Asawaba.
Asawaba.
All right. So again, we'll land that there. So again, be better, TPUSA. Be better. All right.
Well, all of these things should be dealt with at trial. And we super duper know he's guilty. So don't you dare raise any other possibilities. That's for a jury. And it's not for, the one of the largest change networks in the world to go out and poison the jury pool everywhere they exist, because that's a real possibility with Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA is an incredibly valuable entity. It is a change network that plugs into the youth better than any other entity is able to capture and to communicate directly to the youth. Turning Point USA is that entity, and that change network exists on campuses and now in high schools around the country. Incredibly valuable entity. Control over it is a very, very valuable thing. So using that entity to poison jury pools before this kid has a trial, that's super messed up.
Yeah. Also, I think Turning Point USA is not nearly as influential as they were when Charlie Kirk was still at the helm. That being said, they still are the greatest change network in that demographic for sure. For sure. All right, let's jump into this story. So we talked about this story last month. I remember I was on with Alpha, and this story came out from Reuters that FBI obtained Kash Patel and Susie Wiles' phone records during Biden administration. All right, this was back in February 25th. And I was reading this article, and then I got down to this part right here, and I was like, holy shit. In 2023, the FBI recorded a phone call between Susie Wiles, Trump's now chief of staff, but she was a private citizen at that time, and her attorney. What? According to two FBI officials, Wiles' attorney was aware that the call was being recorded and consented to it, but Susie Wiles was not. Yeah. You missed this story by one day, Ash. You were on the day before, and Alpha got it on Thursday. The FBI recorded Susie Wiles' phone call with her attorney in 2023, and it was alleged that the attorney was aware of this. Now, this is the part that I did not know, and this was put out. Mark Caputo put this out on February 26th, saying the lawyers representing Susie Wiles at the time of this incident categorically denies that he allowed his client to be recorded by the FBI without her consent. I understand she believes him and that the Biden-era FBI may have lied about it. Here's what the lawyer told me, quote, if I ever pulled a stunt like that, I wouldn't and shouldn't have a license to practice law. I'm as shocked as Susie. Yes, absolutely. So yesterday there was a Senate hearing, and let me play this clip here of Ted Cruz talking to Will Chamberlain just to kind of rehash this story. And I think there's a reason this is being rehashed right now, but check out this clip here.
Mr. Chamberlain, aside from the legal violations, what specific crimes if any, were actually uncovered as a result of the Arctic frost investigation?
I'm not aware of any crimes that were uncovered.
Would the senators, donors, organizations, and individuals who were surveilled and subpoenaed have ever learned about the Arctic frost investigation had Trump not won in 2024?
Probably not, mainly because of these non-disclosure orders, but also, I mean, the fact that a lot of these records we're now just learning about them because they were in these prohibited access files only available to the FBI director. So if the FBI director was a Democrat, there's no reason to think we'd know about them.
How would you compare the scope of the violations in Arctic frost to Watergate?
I think, if anything, it might even be greater. I mean, the scope of this in terms of the number of people and organizations did. And as I discussed, I mean, this brazen violation of attorney-client privilege, wiretapping a phone call between Susie Wiles and her lawyer, these are egregious offenses. And you know, if Watergate was just about a single break-in, I mean, this is effectively, compound that by 200.
So the rehash on this right now, bringing this back up again, Congress now knows. They have Chamberlain's, comment on this on record. Ted Cruz is asking about it. When are those FBI agents that conducted that wiretap going to be brought in on charges? When are they going to be brought in? That is the most. So going back to the Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA story we just covered, due process, the presumption of innocence, innocent until proven guilty, is the foundation of our judicial system, of our justice system. Also, absolutely one of the most important aspects of that, attorney-client privilege. 100%. What you say to your attorney is between you and your attorney, and nobody can pierce that ever.
Yeah,
even if
you can pierce it if you're using your attorneys to engage in crime. It's very narrow and hard to do, but you can, yeah.
But they're not. There's no crime alleged here. So okay, outside the scope of you're colluding criminal activity, conspiring to commit criminal activity. But so going back to this, even if the attorney consented to it, you can't do that to a citizen. Susie Wiles can't have her phone, her attorney-client privilege pierced just because the attorney says so. That they're not the arbiter of that privilege. They're not the one that gets to decide whether or not it gets pierced. So when are people going to be held accountable for that very specific thing? That is a narrow scope. That is something that could be found out very quickly. That is something that can be brought forward very quickly. And there's a lot of power behind that. Susie Wiles, chief of staff of President Trump. Like, when is something going to be done? Let's just get that. That's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and this isn't like, the FISA captures, right? Like we inadvertently collected this phone call and then, Samantha Powers unmasked it or whatever. Like, this is intentionally engaging in this level of surveillance, capturing Susie Wiles' conversations with her attorneys for the purposes of ginning up a crime. Right? Like going after all of these people in Arctic frost were being looked at because they were, ostensibly going to be subjects of Jack Smith investigations and prosecutions. And that's that when President Trump talks about weaponized government, I firmly believe, and I've said this before, I think you agree with me, weaponized government is seditious at best, right? It's most likely treason because they're doing all of this on behalf of globalism, because the real entity that we're fighting is the global regime and the expansion of no matter who in the Uniparty wins, globalism expands. Well, that's treason in my view, because that is foreign interests outside the United States, outside the interest of the people of the United States of America. When we start going, like I said before, I'll say it again because I still feel this way, especially after the whole Missouri, Louisiana case thing yesterday. My biggest concern is that these people actually think the process is the punishment, right? Like, oh, well, we put you through this struggle session for a couple of years, so we're just going to, write it off now, and you learned your lesson. You didn't actually have any consequences, not real ones, right? You had to go through the struggle session of the process for a couple of years, but you didn't have to, pay any money or lose any rights or lose any assets or, even have really the truth told, about what you did. You just had to go through this struggle session. And I am really concerned that the people in our government, that is their view of justice, right? Well, we put them through the struggle session, and now we can all just, sign this consent decree and move on with our lives, and the American people will trust us again. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There needs to be real accountability. This is insanity. And the tapping of a phone call between a key Trump advisor when they are
political rivals,
throwing everything they can to get Trump. So they go and tap the phone of in my opinion, his most trusted advisor, who is on the phone with her attorney, and then ostensibly use that information to get Trump. The weaponization of government that we're talking about at that level is treason, and these people need to be held accountable for it. And I don't mean that they have to go through a struggle session where they get mean things said about them and then they get to go on with their lives and keep all of their shit. They need to have their lives destroyed. They need to be ripped out by their hair, and they need to be facing trial and facing the consequences of the conviction. But as I said before, all their due process rights intact. They can present their defenses. The prosecutors can present their case, and we'll see what the jury decides. But this idea of whatever we're seeing right now with, we're all gonna move on. No.
Yeah. Seditious conspiracy at best.
At a minimum. Yeah. At a minimum.
All right, just real quick, I'm just going to hit this story briefly. Julie Kelly put this out on X yesterday. This is from apparently Chuck Grassley's office released this regarding some documents from special counsel Jack Smith. A 2023 January briefing with AG Garland shows potential collusion with Judge Boasberg and Judge Beryl Howell and the Jack Smith investigation. Here it says other notable meetings. Jack Smith, this is or Garland's. Again, this is Garland's 2023 January briefing for Jack Smith. He's got a Solicitor General meeting, committed to communication consult with the Solicitor General on the important precedent-setting issues we face in areas of executive privilege, speech, or debate, and the scope and application of the relevant statutes we are considering charging. Then Chief Judge Howell meeting, pace over the last month. Oh, you're talking with a federal judge about the pace of your investigation? Oh, okay. Then you have a redacted sentence. Why are we looking at redacted shit right now, guys? Are you serious? Are you serious? You're redacting stuff in this? Then it comments, this is crazy. She liked our approach, referring to Howell, assumingly it's referring to Howell because the top line above that is redacted. It could, for all we know, could be referring to somebody completely different. But because it's redacted, we got to assume it's the Chief Judge Howell that liked our approach of pursuing the executive privilege litigation in an omnibus fashion. And then Judge Boasberg equals March 18th, meaning that there's a meeting coming up there. And then another one here says that Chief Judge knows it is coming and loves the idea when they respond that we expect to file an omnibus motion by the end of the month.
Holy shit. This
is the special counsel, the illegitimate special counsel conferring with federal judges, including the chief district judge in DC, about going after President Trump. Guys, what the fuck are we doing? This is going back to Breonna Morello. You have all three branches of government. Fucking do something. Okay, I'll land that there.
Yeah, we have the investigative apparatus. We have the Department of Justice have the ability to prosecute this. Do it. Prosecute it. Prosecute these judges. Judges colluding with prosecutors to get political opposition is a crime. It's a portfolio of crime. Prosecute it. Do something. Do something. Do something. Do something. Do something about the corruption.
Do you think that
if you don't do something about the corruption, we are going to assume that you are corrupt?
Do you think there's a possibility that they knew this, and that's why Boasberg and Howell have had so many of these cases to see how these rulings come down, and then all of a sudden, when you go after them and you show this shit, all of those rulings get dismissed. All of their rulings are gone now because you're completely showing bias. You're colluding with a special counselor directly against President Trump, and now you're getting all these cases. And they wake up in the middle of the night and Chief Judge Boasberg comes down at 4 a.m. and boom, here's the case for you, sir. We're going to give this one to you because it's an emergency here. It's very interesting. So I gave you the emotional reaction there just for for the glam, right? That's just for the clips.
You say you didn't mean it?
I meant it. Oh no, I absolutely mean it. I absolutely mean it. But I also have bearing. You know, that's one of the things the Marine Corps taught me is bearing. And so I am able to keep my wits about me on most things, but I will have the occasional emotional outburst. It's necessary.
No, this is like, just deputize us or something, and we'll
go. Let's go.
We don't even need that, right? Like, I feel like I have, but the Chris Paul on the shoulder. Who's going to deputize you? Why do you need to be deputized by an illegitimate government? So
true. Me and Alpha will go make the arrest. We'll have Ash and John Drake and
volunteers tribute.
Volunteers. They will prosecute them. And let's get it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the show. We'll go ahead and jump into Rumble Rants here. I think we only have one.
We did get a monthly supporter.
Yes,
Bear 1 is now a monthly supporter. Thank you so much.
All right. Simple Sam 1779. You continue to say the SAVE Act is 80% plus popular. This is untrue. Only separate polls on showing an ID to vote. Actual polling on the act itself is below 30%. Incorrect.
That whole thing.
That is incorrect. Yeah. That is absolutely, like, number by number, including birthright citizenship, all of it. Yeah. Okay. That is incorrect. And it's funny you didn't put a link in there in a source. I appreciate the $5
as well. We appreciate. Yes, thank you so much for the rant, but you're wrong.
But you're wrong. I mean, what would we know? We just live in this all day, every day.
And I mean, also polls are fake, right?
Polls are fake.
All of these, but my personal belief on this is polls are fake in the anti-American direction, right? So on the issues, like, we've watched the people that believe that elections are manipulated, that number go from like 30% to like 67%, I think was the last polling that we saw on that. And I don't believe that those numbers are accurate. I think the growth trajectory is indicative of something real, though, right? That the from 2020 till now, the share of mind of Americans of elections being fake has grown. It has not gone in the other direction. There is nothing that has made Americans believe elections are more real, right? It's all been the other direction of that. So the polling, in as much as it is suppressed or manipulated, is to go against the will of the people.
Well, it's to seed the narratives that they want, want seeded. What do you think the odds are, Ash, that the GOP, the good guys, steal the 2026 midterm so that the Democrats start melting down about stolen elections? Because look, we won all 10 of the special election seats. We flipped Mar-a-Lago. And then they come out and they're like, yeah, that election was stolen. And we're like, yeah, it probably was. We should probably look into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick of the psyops and spy games. And I know you and I had an argument a year ago about whether or not we're going to get another rigged election in the midterms. And I think you were probably right. We probably will, but it is what it is. I'm not getting more confident in government as this is going on. I'm getting much less. And if you want to take someone like me who believes in voting so hard, right, that like I made this my life in the wake of the stolen election. I the only reason that you and I do the show Why We Vote is because we both really believe in the consent of the government. We believe in the republic. We believe in the United States of America. The continued spy games and psyops that were the American, weaponized agencies running illegal psychological warfare operations on the American people, much as if they were trying to destabilize foreign nation. Our president said that is happening. I don't think anybody can argue against that, right? That is absolutely happening. Fucking do something about it. Like that's treasonous. Do something about it.
Agreed. All right, guys. Thank you all for so much for tuning in. At 2 p.m. today, I will be going live with Ghost talking about the Iran conflict and getting some history. So jump on over rumble.com/CannCon, CANNCON. If you guys want to jump over there and check that out, stay tuned. Badlands Daily Herald will be going live here at about 1 p.m. And then what's today? Today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday. So Ashy Wednesday. So DPH tonight, Shipwreck Show.
Space Revolution, Ship Show, and DPH. Yeah, great lineup happening tomorrow. Ghost and I have episode 2 of season 3 of The Choice, and we also tomorrow afternoon have our third GART live stream where you get to help us shape the panels and get ready for our upcoming trip to Nashville in like less than 2 weeks. It'll be super duper fun. So everybody get your GART tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events, and join us for tomorrow's live stream.
And Breaking History will be starting in about 30 seconds. So jump over and check out Matt Arrett and Ghost over there as well. We'll see you guys later. Thank you so much.
In a quiet town at where beards grow wild and lips dare to crack without permission, one woman has suffered.
Hi, I'm Margie, and I'm Jatriot's mother.
But the world would come to know her by another name, Madame Margie, the moistureless.
Jay came home with a lip balm. It's called Soft Disclosure.
With one miraculous application, her power awakened.
Within one day, my lips were healed. It was miraculous.
But salvation came at a cost. For in the shadowed lands known only as Badlands,
You boys at Badlands are so handsome.
she saw potential.
You're covering up your beautiful faces.
And she made her demand.
Shave them all off.
Or face the consequences. Beard oil will not save you now.
And you'll look so much better.
This summer, moisturize wisely and guard your beard. Because Madame Margie, the moistureless, is always watching.